the Art and Industry of Business and Living podcast, discussing conscious choices around business, money, life and living, and creating a greater future for you and the planet. Hey everyone, welcome to the Art and Industry of Business and Living, and you are with me, Simone Milasas, your host on this fabulous, amazing podcast. So how does it get any better than this? And I have the wonderful, amazing Miss Emily Russell with me today. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you. You're like my most favorite person to do podcasts with.
Really? Aww.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to Francesca Fiantini, who we work with, who is now the Worldwide Coordinator of Access Consciousness, this morning. And I said, it's really interesting when you go to talk to someone. Like this morning, she pinged me, and because she's based in Italy and I'm in Australia, so the time zones. And I said, did you want to chat? And she's like, yes, in 30 minutes. And I noticed how I get excited to talk to certain people because it's always about creation and it's always this movement forward. And then there's other people that you're like, oh, okay. And it's interesting. It's like, you know, it's fine, except it doesn't have that level of enthusiasm, that level of creation. It's sort of like harder work. So it's like, you know, recognize that when who you're working with, it's like, who are those fun people that you get to create with, and what would it take for more of them to show up is what I'm asking for.
Me too.
More creative, kind people to show up in our lives.
Yeah.
Doesn't allow that to show up right and on good and bad, POC and POD, and shorts, boys and beyonds. Which is interesting because the topic I wanted to talk to you about today, and I have no idea, you know, how and where this is going to go, but it was about being happy. And one of the things that I noticed with you, Emily, is you are literally literally, and I am using that word appropriately, okay? It's like, you know, Dane here, who we both know, who, you know, is the co-creator of Access Consciousness, who's been on my podcast. He's got this funny, you know, banter that he does about the word literally, because when people go, literally, there were billions. And he goes, was there really? Were there really billions? Like, why do people always use the word literally out of context? So, but I'm going to say, literally, you are one of the happiest people I know. It's like every time I see you, you have this like, you know, smile on your face. It's like you're this lightness and this, like you walk into a room and everything starts to dissipate that is not about joy and is not about happy. Do you know that about you?
Wow, not on that level. So thank you.
Yeah. You are. Really, like I'm like whenever you're around, I'm like, yay, Emily's here. And you've always got this bubbly energy and you don't seem to hold on to something that most people usually would, like try and make something solid. It's sort of like you're like, there's too many bright, sparkly things in the world. Why would you get, you know, fixated on this? You know, that's how I see it. I mean, I remember someone actually said about you, they were working with you at one stage and they said they found it really hard to work with you because you were so creative and they didn't know like how to deal with it. And I remember you and I chatted about it and we were like, wow, that's not a complaint we've had before. Like that's on the, you know, the other end of the scale. It's like I'm too creative and they don't know how to handle it sort of thing. But that's what I get. It's like that energy that you have of like, you know, bing, 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 bing. There's a billion things, literally. There is literally a billion things.
Yeah, that's true.
That you can create. Yeah. So why get fixated on something else? So that's what I've noticed about you. And that's why I asked you to come on here, especially around this time of year, because people start to, for whatever reason, they start to, you know, freak out and start to reevaluate and go to that litany of judgment about themselves. And it's like, oh my goodness, you know. So I wanted to just, you know, talk to you and see if we can come up with some tools, etc., on being happy and how people can start to wake up happy. So I know that that's your very being. And it's like, but let me ask you this. What is happiness to you?
That's a great question, because what's funny, because I knew we were talking about this topic, and I'm sure you've talked on the show about humans and humanoids and how we as humanoids always make ourselves wrong for everything.
But go into it a little bit more, because I have touched on it, but go for it.
Yeah. So next we talk about they're literally being
we're going to use that word. We're just going to use that word all the time. Let's make Jane listen to this podcast, literally.
And see if he literally, if we've used it correctly. that there are two different species on the planet, humans and humanoids. And humanoids are like the seekers, always looking for something else that's possible. And humans are more kind of like the best analogy that I can't remember which book it's in Access, but that humans are more like cows that are very happy to sit in a pasture and chew grass and eat their cud. And that's like it. And horses are like, I want to play. I want to run. What's next? What next? What can we do? And those are like the humanoids. Great analogy. And
it is. I think it's in the Magic You Are It Be It book. That was written a long time ago, and it is still absolutely brilliant. So if you want to do yourself a favor this Christmas, go on to Amazon and get Magic You Are It Be It.
Because you can read it in one go. It's amazing. And that difference, I used to wonder why people were so different than me, or why they weren't like wanting to have fun or try new things. And I specifically remember, this is pretty recently, I think I came across the Tools of Access about 7 years ago. And I remember having a conversation with my sister about the way I looked at the world. And she was like, I just don't understand you. Like, why can't you see? You always try to see what's good in things, and you're missing all of this stuff. And like, she thought I was invalidating her because I didn't see the heaviness and the wrongness of like everything in the world. And therefore I must be wrong because I was somehow, being optimistic. And
like, unicorns do exist.
Right. And I sort of, in my world, I was like, wow, but I'm not being optimistic. This is actually how I see the world. Like, your point of view creates your reality. And I'm always looking for what's greater and what's different. So when I look at, it's almost sometimes to be like, what tools do you use to be happy? It's I think it's the points of view I function from, because to me, of course, I see it that way. Like, the way of doing that, the hard trauma drama seems hard to me. And why would I want to do that? Right. But it was funny because I actually had to look at and go, I'm not going to make myself wrong here. Like, you might see the world, that analogy of glass half full or half empty. So she's always seeing everything wrong and half empty, but she wanted to make me wrong for not seeing it that way. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this. Like, this is different.
So you've actually given a great tool, and it is literally changing your point of view. So what I'm recommending too is, like, if you go out there and find something around you, like at the moment it's summer in Australia, it's and it's just the birds are amazing, and they're so loud and they're so beautiful, and I have lots of native trees in my yard. Yesterday, I must admit, I was like, seriously, will you shut the fuck up? Like, it was just like constant. I was getting my bars run, and it was like Chinese torture. But they are beautiful. I do love the Australian birds, and I didn't kill any birds, okay? I didn't do anything like that. I just had a moment of like, oh my God, like it's just constant. And I have the beach across the road. And one of the things I always used to say was, if you're unhappy or you're, having some sort of stressful thing, take my dog to the beach for a walk. I mean, this dog has been to the beach, not literally a billion times, but a lot of times. And every single time he goes, he looks at the beach he looks back at you like, oh my God, check this out. This is awesome. Look, there's water, there's sand, there's here's a rock, here's a stick, here's the bush. Oh my God, oh my God. And the joy in his world is off the charts. Like, even people on the beach comment and go, wow. I mean, it's a Labrador, golden retriever Labrador. He's 14 years old, and he still acts like he's a puppy. He swims so far out to all the surfers out of Perigian that people start to get concerned, and you're like, no, he's fine. He rides the waves. He does it all. But the sense of joy in his world. So if you have woken up, my recommendation too would be, like, if you've woken up, or even right now at this moment, if you cannot find, happiness within yourself, take yourself outside, go for a walk, do something different. And even if you sit under a tree, or just, you always say hug a tree. It's like, go, smell a flower. It's like, or, go play in the snow, build a snowman, do something different, and start to connect with the earth as well, because the earth doesn't have a judgment of you, and the earth doesn't have a judgment of what you're choosing, but what it will continuously provide for you is a different energy that allows you to tap into that space that is joyful, that has that sense of peace. And what I want to add too is, happy is not, a lot of people misidentify, oh, they're so happy. Why? Because they're laughing hysterically all the time. that's not happiness. Like, yes, you can laugh, but it's like, I know quite a few people who do this thing, this nervous laughter all the time, and people misidentify it as happy. No, it's like you can actually be so quiet and have that, like I like to call it, the sound of silence. And it's like that sense of peace. And it's like that joy. You could be lying in a bath. It's anything, looking at the stars at night. It's like I said, playing in the snow, or, putting your feet in the water on the beach, whatever that is. And it's like, if it has that sense of joy, that sense of peace, yeah, that creates happiness for you and your body as well. Like, what is your body asking for? I mean, Francesca this morning, when I spoke to her, she's in Venice, Italy, and apparently it was raining a lot. And she said, she'd been working all day, and she said, I so wanted to go outside and go for a walk, and it was pouring of rain. And then she went, oh. So she took herself into the shower, and she said she stood in the shower for ages, just like having that shower pour all over her and her body, and was just like, okay, and received all of that. And I'm like, that's cool. Like, you can always find something to create those molecules sort of like clinging together in your body, and you being present with it is one of the things that I would say about, starting to be happy.
Yeah. And I would say the access tools have expanded what I perceived as happiness too. Like, I remember the very first Being You Changing the World class I took, and at that time I had been working for Access for a little bit and maybe taken classes for a year or two, first class. And I remember asking some question, and Dr. Dame facilitated me around something with, like, before, I've always been a pretty happy person and a kid, but a lot of that came before from not wanting to be aware of everything in the outside world.
Block it off. Yeah.
Put it out here. So I'm good. I'm happy. And I'm actually not going to like see how other people function or get that, there's a lot of craziness in the world. I would just kind of put it out here to be happy. And that class was so interesting because I definitely see that as that's when like my happiness bubble got burst from happiness from not being aware. And all of a sudden then I really chose my reality with happiness. And I remember going back after that class into the world and realizing how much energy I had been putting into other people to make them happy, or to situations to give them energy, which is interesting because when you said, when you walk in a room, you started the podcast, and when you walk in a room, it kind of diffuses the energy and things get greater. And that is such a cool acknowledgement, because I get now that comes from just me being.
Yeah.
But I used to put energy into like, oh my God, I need everyone around to be happy. I didn't even know I was doing it until looking at some of the tools of Access and realizing, wait, I'm going to choose to be happy. And there are things I'm not going to make trauma and drama. And I'm also not going to block out everything that's going on in the world to have that. Because that is that was a really different choice.
And, you mentioned humanoid before, and it's interesting because you were just being a good little humanoid. Come on, everyone, we can all be happy. Like, let's do this. And, I know with my family, for instance, for years and years, I was like, why isn't my mum happy? Why is she always judging others? Why is she always, have this, every time I saw her. And if I had a point of view that was different from hers, she'd say, you always want to argue with me. And I was like, how am I arguing when I just have a different point of view? Like, it never made sense. But I was always trying to figure out how I could make my mum happier, or even just happy. And then finally, when that humanoid tool came out, it was that was one of my favorite tools in Access Consciousness ever. Mm-hmm. Like, it really gave me such a relief, because I realized, my mum is human, and it's not a judgment. It's not a wrongness. Like, neither human or humanoid is right or wrong. It's just, what if we have these two different species on the planet, and you get to recognize, maybe I'm the humanoid and maybe somebody else is the human. So what I realized was, and, we briefly touched on it before, is like humans will spend a lot of time judging others. It's like it's sort of like, there's death, taxes, and then you die. It's like, that's what you live, there's only one life, that sort of, energy of it, or don't take risks, And then humanoids are the ones who they want to go out and conquer the world. And they also maybe do so many different things. Like, at one stage, everyone was like, you can't settle down, because I would just have so many different jobs. And I've worked in so many different industries, but I was just being a humanoid. I was like, all right, done. Move on. What next? traveling all over the world since I was 19. And it's like, I just turned 50. I'm still traveling all over the world. It's like, and people were like, I bet you got that out of your system after I'd spent 3 years overseas. And I was like, no, this is just the beginning. I'm going to create a life of travel. Like, that's what I desire. It's something different. But what I also realized was, for myself, it was such a relief. I no longer had to pursue this place of trying to make my mum happy, because I actually realized she was happy being unhappy.
Yeah.
Like, at the moment, it's like she's got some stuff going on with her body, and she's literally happier, like going to the doctors and the physio and doing all of that. Then quite often when I come home, it's like I take her out to a really nice restaurant and, have a glass of wine and have a chat and everything. And to me, that is more fun than going to a doctor and a physio. And one day I realized she'd hurt herself, and we couldn't go to lunch, and I took her to the doctor and the physio, and I was like, wow, she was so happy me driving her around today and introducing, me to the nurses and the doctors. And I realized she was happier with that than going to a nice restaurant and having a nice lunch and a chat. And I was like, it's a different reality, and you don't need to understand somebody else's reality. You don't need to change their reality. But what I, ask of everyone here listening is start to recognize what your reality is. Like you said, you realizing that when you walk into a room, it's just you being you. You don't need, it's not, you don't have to necessitate in making others happy, especially around Christmas time. It's like, be you and change the world. Dr. Dane He wrote a book about it. There's another book you can get from Amazon, Being You, Changing the World. It's like, if you recognize that other people are actually happy being unhappy, then it makes your life a hell of a lot easier.
So much easier. And we were just at a 7-day event recently with Gary Douglas, and he gave the question, what is my reality and where do I find it? And I was like, that is brilliant. I think it was from that class, right?
I don't know. Say it again.
What is my reality and where do I find it?
What is my reality and where do I find it? I love that.
It's so simple. And it's also what you're talking about, because I realized how much of my what I thought was unhappiness or things I would get frustrated from were kind of like what you just mentioned with your mom, where like not understanding where someone else functioned or trying to make someone happy because I didn't get why they weren't, then just realizing, okay, that's their reality, their choice. What is my reality and where do I find it? And then just being an allowance of everything everyone else is choosing. And so different.
It is. And do you know what? If you could see my phone right now, because I quite often do this, I set myself new tools on my phone. So I just wrote that down. So now every day at the same time that will come up. What is my reality and where do I find it? I love that. I didn't hear him say that. Because it's true. You question it. It's like, what is my reality and where do I find it? Like, this morning I actually woke up and realized, actually, when I was horse riding in Costa Rica, there was one time I got on my horse and I realized the day before that I was referencing what could occur on my horse based on what had occurred. So this day I went, you know what, I'm just going to jump on my horse with no reference points. Like I've never been on a horse before and like I've always been on a horse before, and be totally present with what is. Because I also, as you know, I had to ride my horse with my baby foal, Tesoro, which you can see photos of that on my Instagram if you want to go check that out on Simone Milasas.
She's beautiful.
She was so beautiful. But Tesoro means treasure in Espanol. And most of the time, foals will walk right next to their mums. And she was just like, nah. She was like all over the place. She was hilarious. So it was very interesting to ride. But that one morning, that whole ride, I kept like POC and PODing everywhere. So this is what you can do. And it's like just wake up in the morning and destroy and uncreate all the reference points and objectives you have in regards to blah, whatever that is, like in regards to horse riding, in regards to Christmas, in regards to family, in regards to money, into bodies, relationships, sex, whatever that is. So POC and POD all the reference points and objectives you have in regards to family, money, sex, Christmas, relationships, friends, kids, parenting, and everything that is, times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. And I started using this tool, and like this morning I even woke up and I worked out and I did some Pilates and some boxing, And so many times my head goes, do 20 of this, 30 of this, 50 of this. And I went, you know what if I just boxed and did Pilates from following the energy and with no reference point and asking my body what it would like to do and be next. And it was awesome. I had so much fun. So what if we could be like that? And what if that was the place where we created, happiness as well? If you have no reference point for happiness. And the thing is, an objective is something. So if you went, my objective is that Christmas Day is going to be, the best day of the year. Okay. Then that's you with that objective, you need to have all these reference points that reference what that's going to look like. So then one thing that is slightly off on what you've decided has to be, then you go to judgment and you go to conclusion and you go to answer and the limitations rather than the question of what else is possible, because anything can show up. No day shows up the way you think it's going to. And I know in my family growing up around Christmas Day, it was always this, thank God when I was actually at the ages that I could drink, because alcohol was really good.
Right.
But before that, you'd literally have to tiptoe around the place, because it was like, oh my God, there were so many rules and regulations, and they were like unwritten of what you had to do, even the way we opened up our Christmas presents. And it was like, seriously? So what if you destroyed and uncreated all the reference points and all the objectives you have this Christmas and discover what it is to like to be in question? And as Emily said before, to walk into a room and just be you.
Yeah. And when you say that, the other thing that I do every day, especially like before a holiday or when I'm interacting with people that I have a lot of, family, basically, I destroy and uncreate all the projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections I have of them or they have of me, which also takes care of a lot of that just wonkiness that before or during. I do it with my kids every day. That's what the access tools, these beginner tools, truly are the ones I use every day. Or if I wake up in the middle, lately I've been waking up in the middle of the night with kind of a weird sense of something off, which I'm like, who does it belong to? But what I've found helps the most for me is all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. And just saying it again and again and being really, really present with that energy. And also what we like to call the crazy phrase in Access: everything is the opposite of what it appears to be. Nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. And like between those two, I'll finally get a little more peace and my reality, and then I'll be able to go back to sleep.
That's the two I use all the time as well.
Yeah.
When I can't sleep. Yeah.
It's great. And it's so much of that thing of, sometimes when people start using the access tools, you do get more aware. And so you might wake up aware of other people's worlds. And if you're like, that's not wrong, and you have these amazing tools, it's like the gift of having that awareness and to choose happiness and your reality and being you. And with all that awareness is something a lot of people actually aren't willing to do because it's not comfortable. But God, does it make life a lot more fun and exciting and new every day?
And I think that's the thing that you really touched on. So if you were not avoiding being uncomfortable, it's like, what could you be aware of and what could you choose and change? Because the thing that I realized too, with no reference points and no objectives, it's like you have infinite possibilities available. But if you've decided that you're not willing to be aware of certain things, then you will not have infinite choice and infinite possibilities. And that's essentially what we talk about in Access Consciousness and ask for, is that you do have infinite possibilities. It's not limited. I mean, Jesus, look around you. It's like nature doesn't limit itself. So why do you, What if there was something really different available for you this Christmas and in 2020? I love 2020. I like saying it, 2020.
Me too.
Cool. So do you have any other, tools, processes, any other questions, anything like that you would like someone listening to this that's like, you know what, I would like to have that happiness that is prevalent in my world. Any other tools or anything you'd like to offer people?
One of my other favorite questions is, what choices do I have that no one else has?
Nice.
That's a Gary Douglas question.
That's a manipulative question.
It is.
Because we all have the same choices, yet they're all completely different. That's like, because every single person is a different person, so each choice is completely different. I was thinking about this yesterday, like some of the choices I've made recently, and if I hadn't made that one choice, then a whole lot of things wouldn't have shown up.
Yeah.
It's like and so one of the things I have been practicing now for at least a year is the yes-no universe. And to me, that creates a lot more happiness as well. So how does the yes-no universe work? It's really easy. It's actually so easy that people refuse to do it. Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to Melbourne, this week, and I literally was like, okay, so there was some different things going on that I was like, should I go to Melbourne or not? And I was like, should I go to Melbourne? Yes, no. And I cheated. I actually said to Gary, what do you get? And he went, yes, go. And I was like, cool. And because I was and sometimes you get like it's more of just a choice. But if you ask that question, this or this, and with the request in your question of, is it going to create something greater? Will it work out? Blah, blah, blah. But not will it work out from the linearity, just from even just now I went outside and I was with my assistant and I was looking around the garden and we have a new gardener and I'm just like, and I was like, I get, let's change it. Let's get a landscaper in and just make this friggin' beautiful. Big yes. You could feel the garden go, yes. And because it's nearly Christmas time. And she's like, when do you want it? And I was like today? And I went, we'll create it. We'll find someone. We'll find a landscaper who can come in here because we always do. It's like we ask and we request and it actualizes. But you have that yes, no. It's like, all right, so it is, yes, no, yes, no. And it's like, and practice with that. I mean, even do it with the smallest of things, like the food that you eat or, the movement that you do with your body. It's like, what movement would your body like? Yes, no. And it's like, the other day I'm going for a run and it was funny. I ran into a friend and they said, how was your walk? And I went, that's funny. That's exactly what I did. I didn't run. I walked the whole way because my body just wanted to walk. And it's like, so not from this place of like, I must do this. It's like, no, what's available right now?
Yeah. And what I've been playing with that yes, no universe is I've noticed as you change, your awareness of yes and no, it seems so simple, changes. So recently, like especially after coming back from the 7-day, I've said, God, I feel like I can't choose anything or I can't get an awareness of light or heavy or yes or no. Yeah. And then I had a friend be like, yeah, but what if you're just so different that all changes too? So it's always, there is never a tool that doesn't change every day with how you change because.
Yep. Just because you get it yesterday doesn't mean it's the same tomorrow in 10 minutes.
Exactly.
That's funny. I actually texted Gary last night and I went, I get this sense, like I've had this sense about myself that I'm useless at the moment and that I can't perceive the future. Any hints or advice on things? And he goes, welcome to my world. And I was like, oh, okay. But I noticed I wasn't going in the wrong list. I was just like, I feel like I'm useless. There's so many amazing people around me and what they're creating. But I always know from Gary too, like when he has gone through that place of going, I feel useless, he'll always create something more. And most people, when they feel useless, then they'll try and micromanage something rather than going, oh, what other possibilities are available? And all of that to me, like being happy and choosing happy is always that place of moving forward, like, one foot in front of the other. And ask for more. It's like, what other energies are available that you've not yet asked for? There's so much that's possible. A couple of years ago, I was in Japan and I was skiing, and 27th of December was a horrible day. I got so depressed, and I knew it wasn't mine. I knew it was like a million other people around the world, or a billion, I should say. But what I did was, instead of sitting there and getting really depressed, I went, no one deserves to be like this. So I actually made this Kajabi course. It's free. I think, is it still available?
I think we have to make it more visible, like remake it visible on your site, but it's amazing.
So let's attach it. Like, I don't know how they do that, whatever, but let's have it available in the Kajabi thing. So we'll put some link, if you download this, the notes and stuff, we'll put the link in there of how you can get that, because it's free. So you can join up and get that. Because I went, no one needs to be like this. So this year on the 27th of December, what we're doing is a one-off Zoom, and it's called Get Happy and Stay There. It's at 5 p.m. Queensland time. So you can find it on the accessconsciousness.com site. You can also find it on Simone Milasas' site. It was created so that Australasian sort of thing, but hey, wherever you are in the world, maybe you're awake, we were like, get a glass of champagne and let's get happy and stay there. So that's a one-off Zoom that I'm doing on the 27th of December in Australian time zone, 5 p.m. Queensland. So you can check more out about that. And the other thing I'm going to recommend highly, get your bars run.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, get your bars run. Like as much as you possibly can. It's like if you know what bars are, find a bars buddy, swap bars, pay someone to get your bars run, whatever it takes. Go to a bars class. You get your bars run twice and you run bars, and there's thousands and thousands of bars facilitators around the world. So you can check that out on our website as well and find a bars facilitator. Give yourself the gift over Christmas and relax and get your bars run.
There's no greater gift. accessconsciousness.com/bars.
Cool. And we've actually got, when's Global Bars Day coming up?
It is January 23rd, 2020.
Yeah, nice. 2020. So you like saying it too.
I do. And it's all day free event, all stuff. You're going to be on at some point during the day. Brendan, Gary Douglas, Dr. Dane here, all these people we've talked about that are wonderful. And lots of stuff about bars and the tools. And then it's for everyone. So if you've never heard of this or you're just listening to podcasts or you've, been following the tools and doing classes, it's a day of celebrating that possibility that all the tools give and bars.
Celebrating you.
Yes.
And by that, I don't mean just celebrating Emily. It's not like a day celebrating Emily. It's celebrating you listening. All right. Well, so thank you so much, Emily, for joining me here today. And I absolutely adore you. And I'm going to see you soon in Australia.
Thank you. Yes, I will. I adore you. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.